Hey, thanks for listening to Liquid Carnage Radio. I'm Scott here with Jason, and we want to let you guys know if you want to find us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, you can like us, follow us at Liquid Carnage. We want to hear from you. If you found us and you're hearing us right now, you're on Podbean or iTunes, we appreciate that. Tell your friends, write a review. We can't thank you guys enough for following us on this journey.
And as always, no dogs were hurt in the making of this podcast. Enjoy.
Welcome back to Liquid Carnage. I'm Scott.
I'm Jason. How you guys doing, everybody?
Hey, man. Thanks for coming back to another great episode of Liquid Carnage. We are finding our way here on this podcast, starting to find our voice, starting to find out what people want to hear about, what they want us to talk about, and what they think is funny with us. So I thought today I'd recap my weekend. More or less, I'd recap what happened to me last night. So can I tell you a story, Jason?
I would love to hear a story because I was not involved with the story because I had tryouts I had rehearsals, so I couldn't go with you guys up to Williams.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Jason is a local thespian.
Well, you guys have, if you guys have listened to Liquid Carnage, you guys know that we have definitely become thespians. So, but it's good to see you, Scotty. I'm glad you made it back safe.
Oh, thanks for
glad
to be back safe.
Talk on.
So, as you said, last night, I spent the weekend up in Williams. Williams is about an hour and a half from where we record this podcast here in Kingman, and it's a mountain town. It's a quiet little town. It's a quick getaway for us. My family has a place up there, so and you've been there a few times. Where
yes, I have.
We can get up there and get away, just kind of cut loose for a little while.
It's also the gateway to the Grand Canyon South.
That's true. It's a lot of tourists. It's going to be the tourist season, and we spent a weekend up there this weekend, just a few of us, just to kind of get away. And last night, myself and our friends Jeff, Dave, and Sam. We all went out and had a boys' night at our favorite bar up there, the Canyon Club.
Oh, Canyon Club. There's a plug.
Yeah.
At Liquid Carnage and the Canyon Club.
Jackie the bartender. If you happen to go in there and see Jackie the bartender, tell her that Kingman says hello, and she will love you forever.
All right. That's a little plug. Continue, Scotty.
At any rate, so we go out there, and on weekends they have karaoke night, and our friend Dave is a magnificent singer.
Oh, Dave is a magnificent singer. He can sing almost anything.
And I love going to the Canyon Club with Dave because we're not from there, so whenever he sings, he makes the room stop, and the room watches him. And that happened multiple times last night, but that's not what I want to talk about.
Oh, okay. Wow. This is a good story.
Yeah. So Sam, Jeff, Dave, and I are having a night. We're singing, we're laughing, we're having a good time, we're carrying on. Just making jokes and whatnot. And throughout the evening, there's this little old lady that's in there. And we got there about 9 o'clock. There's a little old lady in the bar, and she's kind of bouncing from table to table. She's trying to have conversations, and I'll be honest, it was a little awkward to sit and watch.
Okay.
She tried dancing with people, and at one point, I think she was trying to sign language someone's song on the karaoke stage.
Oh, okay.
It was just a very interesting thing, and Dave and I started to notice it. We're kind of watching and just seeing how things developed. And about an hour later, it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock or so. We have had a few shots, a few drinks, so we felt no pain.
There you go.
So we were laughing and having a good time and carrying on. And this woman, her name was Tracy, walks up to us and says, "You guys look like so much fun. Would it be all right if I joined you for a while?" So we're polite guys, and we're like, "All right."
How'd she look?
She was older.
How did she look though?
She reminded me of my grandma.
Oh, okay. The woman who was sign language.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Tracy sat down with us, and if there are no strangers with us, this. You've been with us on many adventures, and you also meet no strangers. Everyone becomes a friend after a few minutes.
After a few drinks or a few minutes. Yes.
Yeah, both. And this is a combination, so it was a perfect storm. So Tracy sat down with us, and we asked her, "So Tracy, where are you from?" And she kind of gave us a roundabout answer. And we finally got out of it. She's from Fresno. I said, "Well, what are you doing, Tracy?"
Fresno, okay.
Fresno, yeah. Where are you going? She goes, "Well, I'm just taking a road trip. I'm just going to see my mom and my son, and I'm going to be on my way. So I just thought I'd stop here." So, we said, "All right." And she didn't really give us straight answers, but she was very friendly, and, and she was carrying on with us and joking and just trying to have a good time. And she reminded me very much of my grandma. She was 55 years old. She is 55 years old, traveling across the country by herself on a bucket list trip.
Oh, okay.
And we asked her, after a while, "So why are you taking a bucket list trip by yourself? This doesn't make sense to us." And she just, as a very point of fact, looked at us and said, "I'm dying."
Oh, man.
She goes, "I have cancer.
Oh, boy.
I'm dying, and I want to see my son, and I want to see my mom one more time." And I figured along the way, I'd stop and do all the things I've always wanted to do.
Wow.
So I'm here tonight, passing through. I've never closed down a bar. I've never sang karaoke. I've never done a few things, and I'm hoping, since you guys are looking like you're having such a good time, you would help me do these things here tonight. So.
Wow.
Yeah, we kind of looked at each other and you said, "You know what? Yeah, we didn't want to Yeah, you hear that? What do you say? This lady is taking her bucket list trip to go see her mom one last time, go see her son, and she sat and she poked fun at Sam for being the baby of the group. And, she made fun of Dave and just lauded over Dave singing, and had jokes with him, and they got into a serious conversation about life. And she poked fun at me and ribbed at Jeff, and she was very comfortable with us and very easygoing with us. And we had discovered a new tequila there that we were taking shots of every so often. We asked Tracy if she'd like to take a shot with us, and she told us that she'd never taken a shot.
Okay.
So we got Tracy her first shot, and she looked at Dave and said, "You've been singing beautifully all night. Would you sing my favorite song for me? It's American Woman." So Dave got up there and sang American Woman to her.
The Lenny Kravitz version or the Who version?
It's funny you mention that because Dave had the same question.
Oh.
Dave looked at her and said, which version? And she said the Who.
Okay, the Who, the original.
The original version. So Dave got up there, and like I said, if you've never heard Dave sing, it's Dave Watson here in Kingman. Dave can sing anything beautifully, and he did a great job with that. But on a side note, we'll get to this later on.
Okay.
He sang a song, Tennessee Whiskey, by Chris Stapleton. If you've never heard it, that was his first time singing it last night.
Okay.
And it brought a tear to everyone's eyes. It was the most beautiful song of the evening. But back to our story. So Tracy's, having some drinks with us, and she asked us at the end of the night, after we closed down the bar with her, we waited till 2 a.m. to close the bar so she could check it off her bucket list. She asked us if we would walk her back to her hotel.
Okay, she was staying in
Williams?
She was
staying in Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she was pointing, toward the direction where we were staying, so we figured, okay, that's the least we could do. So it's 2 a.m. It's a town she doesn't know, and we're 4 fairly large men. It's okay. We can walk her back. So we walked her back, and we laughed with her and joked with her, and she wanted to skip down the streets and do all the things that she never got to do or never had to do. And we got her to her hotel room. She thanked us. She asked if she could take some pictures with us. So oddly enough, at 2:30 in the morning, this morning, we were taking pictures with this lady we met on her bucket list trip. And through all of this, she's telling us the story of her life. She had worked for a beer garden. She was an administrative assistant, and her job was to help people in charge make sure they stay in line.
Okay.
She was married once and had one child, and her husband cheated on her and treated her poorly for 25 years. And she always thought her love would be enough to make him stop, and it never was until he finally left her. So she told us the story of how she was broken, how her only son was depressed, and she didn't know how to help him. She needed to see her mom, and then on top of all of this, she got diagnosed with terminal cancer. And we got back to her hotel room. We dropped her off. We hugged her goodbye. And as the 4 of us were walking away, we realized last night that we probably met a guardian angel for us, someone that needed to meet us. We needed to meet her.
Oh, wow.
To kind of remind you about how precious life really is. To remind you that it's not about, getting your daily tasks done. It's about finding the value in what you're doing and finding the value in who you are as a person and what you're doing to make yourself and the people around you more comfortable and a little bit better. We'll never see Tracy again.
You think she'll be gone by the time? Well, you'll never see her.
We'll never see her again. We'll never know. But the 4 of us walked away knowing that we helped this lady check off a lot of things off of her bucket list, a lot of things that we take for granted. Because you and I have been in bars many times at 2 a.m. We've sang karaoke, we've danced, we've done all the things that we don't think twice about that this lady wanted to step outside of her comfort zone and do. And she figured tonight was the night in a random town as she's driving across country.
Wow.
So
I think about how often would someone come up. Well, first of all, how often would someone even come up to ask to sit with
that takes guts.
And how often in our society would you say, no, it's just us, or no, we don't want to get involved, or no, we don't want to interrupt the fun that we're having?
Yeah. And it was just one of those things where it just felt very easy to say, yes, you know what, join us, have a drink with us.
Okay.
Joke with us. And she got in on our jokes, and she was not afraid to give it right back. She'd take the jokes, and it was a very peaceful night.
Did she look sickly?
A little, but it wasn't like on death's bed.
Okay.
It was, I'm still healthy enough. I can still do this. I'm still gonna do this. I think it was this was her trip, her final goodbyes, and I'm gonna do all the things I want to do. So when I do finally pass, or when she finally passes, she'll have no regrets.
Okay.
Which got us into a conversation about regrets with her, and Dave, asked her, "Do you have regrets?" And she was very upfront and said, "Yes, I have a lot of regrets, and that's what caused this trip."
Oh, so this was kind of like in a way to find closure.
I think
with
so.
Things that she was dealing with.
I think so.
On a personal level.
Yeah, and and we got back to where we were staying last night, and the four of us kind of sat there, and after a night of just laughing and joking and singing and just having a good time, we had that moment of I don't know if you want to call it clarity, but that moment of it was very somber that this woman chose us to spend a few hours with on a random night to help her step out of her shell a little bit, and it's kind of cool. If those listening, it might seem cliche. You might not think it's that great of a story, but it meant a lot to us. We meet a lot of people in what we do in our professional lives and our personal lives, and people come and people go. And you don't really take a lot of what these people say or do to heart, And this woman just kind of hit us all at the right time. I think she came to us, all four of us, at a point where we didn't realize we needed something like that to happen to kind of reel us back in a little bit, remind us about how precious life is and how precious the people around us are and what we're doing, as individuals, just to be better,
Wow. And the woman, when you talked to her, did she seem like she was enjoying the moment? That she was
very much so
into it as much as you guys were enjoying it from your perspective?
Oh, very much so. She wasn't phoning it in. She was dancing and jumping up and down and laughing. And once she picked up on a joke, she'd make another joke to go right with it.
Oh, good. So her personality was vibrant.
She was very vibrant, very sweet. And like I said, she reminded me very much of my grandma. She had the same demeanor, the very sweet essence of just, she's just calm and had that maternal feel.
Did she say how much time she had?
She didn't. And we were very respectful of asking her about that. Mm-hmm. Just for the fact that, everyone comes to terms with that differently. So if you're we're not sure where she was on that level. Obviously, I think she's come to terms with it if she's driving cross country to see family and do her bucket list.
Right.
But it's just very, very maternal feel, but also at the same time a very sad feel, because you could see the loneliness in her.
Loneliness, because she was by herself.
She was by herself.
Choice, though, right? Or do you think that it just happened to be that I don't really have anyone to go with? I don't have anyone to spend my final days with.
When she spoke about her ex-husband and the way that he treated her, she had also mentioned that he was the great love of her life, and no matter what happened, no matter what he did to her, she still loved him, and she couldn't imagine loving anyone else the way she loved him. So she's never been able to get past it. And like judging by the age range, I don't think they've been divorced that long or separated that long. So maybe a few years at best.
Wow. Okay.
So she's still coming to terms with it, but you could just kind of sense that loneliness and that melancholy of, I would love to do this with somebody, but I'm not.
Right.
So
no, I'm with you. Yeah, the part I find interesting about that story is that happened to be never got to share a part of her story with you. Where was she from originally?
She was from, I think, Kansas.
So she was a long way from home.
Yeah, she ended up in California. And to go back to your point on happenstance and just being there, we weren't going out last night. Our friends Dave and Sammy showed up about 8:00. Because we were, talking to him throughout the day, but it was just, Jeff and his girlfriend Krista and I hanging out the house watching baseball, relaxing at that point. And we were fine staying in, playing cards, doing whatever, and they showed up. So we knew we had to make it worth their while, so that's why we went out. And it was, like you said, just the right place, right time. Had they not shown up, we never would have gone out. Yeah. We never would have met her. We never would have had the experiences we had last night. Now, that being said, we did make a joke. Excuse me. That this morning, and it's kind of haunting, but I would not be surprised if it happened either. If we would have gone back to the hotel this morning to knock on her door to invite her to breakfast, I would not be surprised if there was no one in that room. And if we asked the hotel manager,
had someone been there,
he would have said no, that nobody met that description in that room.
Oh boy.
It was just one of those feelings,
Yeah, like it's something beyond what we're just normal interactions of something higher level, higher existence.
Yeah, and that's it, and that's kind of what we talked about last night. And our friend Dean made a comment this weekend that we have a very close, tight knit group of friends.
Yes, we do,
and we are close, but at the same time, we're all doing our own thing. We're all drifting. And this lady last night kind of reminded the four of us that we can still be close with all this stuff going on in life. It just takes a simple phone call. Pick up the phone, send a text, just say hi. That's all you have to do,
Well, and I'm sure that if we were in a situation where one of us was in a predicament like this woman was in, everyone would be there, everyone would be supportive. But you're right. I mean, we get busy in our lives, and we get stuck thinking of just what we need to do today, what we need to do this week, what we need to do at work, we forget that the reality of what our lives are is definitely of a higher plane of existence than just where we work, what we do. So.
And I think we take for granted, especially us in our situations with our friends and our family, about how lonely we're really not. How we have someone there. And I don't think Tracy had that. I think she yearned for that, to be honest with you. I think she wanted nothing more than to feel like she belonged.
So she was in this world. She's alive. She's in this world. She has lived life. But when it came down to the last moments, you felt that she was very much a feeling of alone.
Yeah, and I know that when people pass, you're alone. No matter if the people around you, that's a very singular moment where you're doing it on your own. You're by yourself, and it doesn't matter who's around you. It's you that's experiencing it.
Yeah.
And just something about watching this woman, because just thinking back as I was driving home this morning about all of our, just watching the room last night and watching the interactions and how much she really just wanted to try and belong. And when she came and sat with us, Jackie, the bartender, pulled me aside when I was at the bar and asked if she was bothering us because she had been trying to talk to Jackie all night, and Jackie just didn't have time and thought she was kind of weird and kind of crazy. Not in a bad way, but kind of out there because I never.
Well, just like we were talking about earlier. I mean, people come into our lives all the time, and how often do we say, we don't have time for you.
Yeah.
We've got our own things going.
Yeah.
We're having a good time. Please. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you.
And Jackie's trying to run a bar. I get that. Mm-hmm. And she asks, goes, I want you guys to make sure that you guys are okay. Is she bothering you? If she is, I'll ask her to leave. I said, no, she's not bothering us at all. And I told Jackie what she told us in the story. And she said, oh, well, okay. Well, in that case, by all means, you guys, enjoy yourselves, and I'll go get you guys another round, what have you. But it was just watching her last night, looking back. And just thinking about all the different places in the room she was, just trying to find that connection of human contact.
Right. Yeah, and who knows? I mean, she might not have, why she felt comfortable with you guys to sit down with. I mean, there was other people in the bar. Maybe she didn't feel comfortable with them, or maybe she didn't have that same sort of comfort level to even approach.
Yeah, and that's it. And
she tried to obviously talk to the bartender, but you're right. The bartender's busy. The bartender's trying to focus. The bartender, I don't have time to talk about right now. And
yeah. So it was just one of those. It was one of those nights that, like you said, it all happened by happenstance. We weren't planning on going out until Dave and Sammy showed up, and I'm glad we did. And we got to meet and spend some time with a very lovely lady, Tracy. I don't think we'll ever see her again. I don't think she'll ever hear this podcast, to be honest with you.
Maybe. Maybe not. Wouldn't that be funny if she did, though?
Oh man, it would be a trip.
What do you think? What do you think Tracy was thinking after you dropped her off at the hotel?
Yeah, I just hope that she felt like she belonged and she had a great time, and that she was part of the gang for one night. For someone so alone, sometimes that's all you really want. It's that night of feeling like you belong. That you're supposed to be in that group doing what that group does.
Well, and maybe it's important to notice that her sense of being along or feeling like she was a part of something only came about because she took the initiative to ask.
Oh yeah.
How many of us are too shy, too removed from groups that we don't feel comfortable asking.
And that's
we don't feel comfortable interjecting ourselves into other people's lives, and so we miss out on that opportunity that Tracy obviously took as an opportunity to.
And the four of us were in our little world. We were just joking, laughing. We were keeping to ourselves. We weren't really talking to a lot of the people. I mean, the bar was fairly full, but we were making idle chit chat to passerbyers and. Congratulating people as they sang, just doing, what we do. And we never would have asked her to sit with us, and not to be mean about it, but we just wouldn't have. It wouldn't have crossed her mind to have.
It wouldn't cross most people's minds.
Yeah.
I don't think most people would look in a bar, a semi-crowded bar, see someone sitting at a table all by themselves, and think, oh, you know what, maybe I'll invite this person to come over. In fact, in most cases, exact opposite. If they're alone, they probably want to be alone.
That's exactly
and maybe that's something that is a faulty premise on most people's
Yeah.
face that, or in their minds, that someone alone means they don't want to be around someone. A lot of people, I mean, we take for granted that we're pretty gregarious people and can talk to anybody, but there's a lot of people out there who
can't.
don't have that, and especially
absolutely.
when you're facing that kind of
Situation.
situation outlook. Sometimes it's hard when you don't have the comfort to step out and say, I need interaction, I need contact, I need someone to inject their personality or their vitality into me to make me feel better.
It's that old Tim McGraw song, "Live Like You Were Dying."
Yeah.
She literally took that to heart. She started to do the things, and we all want to do things our own way. If in that circumstance, what her bucket list was isn't necessarily our bucket list. What we did last night was Saturday night for us. For her,
right. That might have been the only time,
the only time in her life that she'd ever been able to go into a bar and be able to do that. But I guess the moral of the story is that we're all dying. Realistically, we all are. It's just how we choose to spend that time before it happens.
Well, and so the question comes up. You're told that you have a year left to live. What are you going to do with your bucket list?
And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Is what are some of your bucket list items? What are some of the things that you feel like you need to do before your time goes? Have you thought about that? Have you ever thought that, man, it would just be cool if I could do that? Man, I just need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously traveling would be something that would be important to me. Mm-hmm. Places that I've dreamed about going but never have. Mm-hmm. I've never been one of those type of people of I have to get the full essence of life by jumping out of an airplane and hoping that the parachute opens.
Right. Fuck that. Jeez. Yeah, I can say that all the things that I'd want to do, I don't think they're not life-changing. They're just things that would be cool to see. Being on top of, Mount Kilimanjaro. Not that I'll ever go there, but...
Well, if you had a bucket list, you might.
Machu Picchu, hike that. And just eat at some of the best restaurants, in the country, and watch the sunset come up over the Rockies one more time. It's things like that, little things that mean something.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure that part of my bucket list would be to make sure to reach out to the people that have meant something in my life, and end on a note that says you meant something to me. Your existence on this planet meant something to me, and here's why. I'm sure I would do things like that. I don't. I guess it also depends too on how sick I was. If I was working well, but I had cancer versus I'm deathly ill. My body can't move. My body, which makes a difference as well.
And I guess we can wrap this conversation, but and move on to a much happier. More
so what are you going to do with this knowledge? I mean, we got a few minutes left. What are you going to do with this experience? What do you see yourself doing with it that's going to carry forward? Because you said it was a moving experience for everyone involved.
Yeah.
What do you see yourself doing with it?
It reminded me to go out and reach out to the people that I keep saying, I'll call them, I'll get to them, and I keep pushing off and pushing off contacting with them because life's getting busy. Life is busy for all of us, and it never hurts to send a text like, hey, let's go get coffee or beer soon. Let's catch up. Let's talk. Haven't seen you. Hope all is well. Enjoy the little things.
We started this podcast with the idea of just two guys. We were sitting at a bar, sitting somewhere, having conversations and having, interactions, maybe debating a little bit on certain topics.
Yeah.
Where we started and now where we're at, it has definitely evolved into something that is, for me, has been very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Some things, are not thought-provoking. They're just fun, but things like this, it is cliche. You got to live like you're dying, and it is cliche, live life to the fullest. But
I would say just don't take it for granted.
Cliche. Everything is cliche.
It's all cliche, yeah.
But when you think about this woman who took the opportunity to introduce herself to the group and talk with them with a bunch of strangers. Maybe it was the first time. It's interesting to find out what the backstory is. You got a little glimpse of the backstory, but we all have a backstory. We all have our dreams, and we have our demons, and we have the things that drive us. So maybe this story for me reminds me that everyone has a life. Everyone has a story behind that life, and sometimes when things people do things that I can't understand why they did that. This reminds me that the only way that you're going to get to know a person is you have to open yourself up to that person.
Oh yeah,
And
spend a few minutes talking to people. It never hurts. It never hurts to have some friends, to make a new friend. It doesn't have to be a deep friendship.
well, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, this friendship lasted
A few
8 hours, maybe.
A few hours, if that, yeah.
6 hours, whatever. So, I mean, we're not even talking about a friendship, but it did require that we give of ourselves.
Oh yeah, there was some
Always give of
definitely
ourselves.
emotion put into it. There was, yeah.
And sincerity and the recognition that we don't know everyone's backstory, but when we open ourselves up, you'd be amazed what kind of backstories are out there. I mean, it's a great story, and this particular podcast is great because it's something that you just did, so you had a fresh experience with it, and the kind of stuff that I'm really excited about with Liquid Carnage. I think this is the kind of stuff that for me
it's real
means
life.
a lot.
It's real
it
life
means a
stuff.
lot, yeah.
And I'll wrap up this conversation on this final thought. Growing up here in Arizona, there was a children's show called Wallace and Ladmo. It was a variety show. Bozo the Clown was on WGN all over the country. It was very very similar. They were two guys that they had skits, they had cartoons, they gave out Ladmo bags here in town. And anyone in Arizona that grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s as a child know who Wallace and Ladmo are.
Okay.
And Ladmo was a very tall man, a very friendly man. And he had a very famous quote, and I'm probably going to hack it up here, but bear with me.
No problem.
He said, "I might not see you often, but I hope when someone says my name, you'll stop and smile and say, 'That's my friend.'"
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow, that's actually probably a perfect way to end this podcast.
Yeah, we're not going to go for their tagline today. I think we just go with that and just say we'll catch you next time. And
All right.
thanks for listening.
Hey, thanks for listening.